Hey, how you doing? You know, every library should have the works of Marvel in it, right? A classic, The Mighty Thor from the early 70s. If you don't have this, you need to have it. Just throwing that out there. I'm concerned about literacy. I'm concerned about people having access to the classics. So this is my call to action. You should own some early 70s Thor. Just throwing that out there. Hey, I'm Jeremy, your friend here with the Classic Guitar Rock update for today. A few things in the news. By the way, email me, classicguitarrock@mail.com for requests, complaints, suggestions, recipes, whatever you got. Send them my way. Love to hear it. Paul Rogers. Now, let me say this because I am the first to disparage the steaming pile of poop we call the classic rock, or the different steaming pile. Okay. The steaming pile of poop we call the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm the first one to sling arrows. Do you sling arrows? I guess you don't sling arrows. Shoot arrows, sling rock. Whatever. I don't like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's a joke. And so one of the bands that's always mentioned is not in the hall, and it's just a travesty that they're not, is Bad Company. And it just makes me so angry when I hear that Bad Company is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And yet I find out in an article today posted on Ultimate Classic Rock, Paul Rogers has revealed that he was invited to join the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame years ago, but turned down the offer. And it got me thinking, and here's something that the Hall, in their defense, they don't necessarily share with us, the little people, maybe acts that they have invited that have turned them down. Let's be honest, a lot of the rock and roll bands aren't fans of the Rock Hall because it's so stupid and so steaming pile of crappish, right? But it did make me take pause and think, well, maybe some of these bands that are just glaring omissions, maybe they've been asked and they've turned it down. So just something to think about. So he says years and years ago, Ahmet Ertegun, who was the head of Atlantic Records and the co-founder of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, said to me, Paul, we're making this museum of rock and roll. Do you guys want to be part of it? And I said, what? A museum of rock and roll? What's it called? He said, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't think rock and roll belongs in a museum, Rogers responded, turning down Ertegun's offer. The singer claims he was asked again a couple times, but refused. So there you have it. That's why, at least in the case of Bad Company, they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I didn't know that. Okay, so some related intertwined news here. The Eagles have been joined by Steely Dan as their opening act during the first few weeks of their long goodbye tour. But due to Donald Fagen's illness, Steely Dan has had to step back for a while. And guess who's replacing him as the opening act? The Steve Miller Band. What's not to like? The Eagles with Steely Dan or the Eagles with Steve Miller? I don't know which I'd rather see. I've seen Steve Miller. He puts on a great live show. Never seen Steely Dan. But I think that's making the best of a bad situation. They're not going to have Steely Dan there, so they'll have Steve Miller for a couple of shows. So Miller is scheduled to open on October. Oh, that was last night. So he opened last night. He's opening tomorrow night in Detroit, the 17th in Cleveland. So, and check this out. Vince Gill, a touring member of the Eagles, will do double duty by opening the show. So on one of these shows, it'll be Vince Gill opening for the band before he comes out and plays with them. And so related to that also is the fact I just mentioned, Donald Fagen, that he will be, he's being released from the hospital, just was released out of the hospital following an unspecified illness that forced Steely Dan to withdraw from several tour stops. Rumor has it he's recovering from a charisma bypass procedure. Donald Fagen, not known for having the liveliest. I thought it was funny. Sorry. Okay. Roger Waters back in the news, not for a good reason. So he shouted profanities at fans as they started walking out during the Pink Floyd Rockers performance in London on Sunday night. Now, remember, back on the Wall tour, he spit on fans. So he kind of exhibits some jerk behaviors, okay, every once in a while. I'm just saying, usually not a good idea to spit on your fans or to shout profanities at the people buying tickets to see your show. I'm just saying, maybe I'm old-fashioned. Probably not a good idea. It was the first concert since the release of his Dark Side of the Moon Redux. He's kind of reimagined, re-recorded his own version of Dark Side of the Moon. A lot of spoken word stuff and kind of stripped down arrangements. Fans were eagerly, this is from Ultimate Classic Rock also, by the way. Fans were eagerly awaiting the live debut of material from the album, but many in attendance were disappointed when they unexpectedly watched the singer read from his unreleased autobiography for an hour. Oh, golly. According to the Daily Mail, Waters, quote, read out pages of notes about his pets, including a duck called Donald, which he discussed for 20 minutes, leaving audience members stunned, end quote. Another report noted that the singer spent time ranting about WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Meanwhile, the Times reported that another anecdote began promisingly as a memory of Floyd's original leader, Syd Barrett, but revealed nothing more than that Barrett wrote a lot of songs and had an innocent air about him. And, okay, so at some point, he's losing the crowd because they're just like talking to each other and not even paying attention. And this very much agitated Roger Waters. And he says, quote, I'm quoting this, if you want to tell stories, tell them in your own time to your own audience in your own effing theater. By the way, if you can, show constraint and stop shouting again. So apparently people were shouting. They're probably shouting, when's the show going to start? I don't know. Later, when some fans began to leave, Waters told them to F off. So it sounds like a good time was had by all. Way to go, Roger. All right. One last item. Legendary American rockers Kiss have canceled their concert in Dubai, United Arab Emirates this week. All Things Live Middle East, the presenter behind the concert, issued the following statement, quote, Kiss has today confirmed that they have canceled their show due to unforeseen circumstances and will be releasing more information imminently, end quote. Now, I'm not an expert. I'm assuming this probably has something to do with what's currently going on in the Middle East this week. I would think it probably has something to do with that. Guys, that's the news for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, you can be a sponsor, or not a sponsor, a subscriber on X for as little as $1 a month and help us in our goal of taking over the world. So by all means, check that out. We'll see you tomorrow for our next Classic Guitar